I tried. I really tried with this show. Hey there, this is your Mac Doodle to my Thomas Hands, Doodle My Hero with another video. And today, I like to talk about Batman and Caped Crusader. Oh my god, I really tried with this show. When this show was being announced, I was super excited. But then when it got delayed, I was like, oh my god. It kept saying it was going to be released and then not released, and I was so confused. So when it was finally revealed to be on Amazon, I was like, oh cool, I'm excited now. When is this Batman show going to come out? And I would even be one of the people that would, listen to all the synopses on what is going to happen. I would listen to people's theories on what kind of things they're going to do because, it takes place in the 1940s. There would be images coming out of, the villains that are being released. And I was like, I see what you're doing. I've seen some of the stories that they're trying to do, and I am interested. There were also things that I was so worried about because I would hear certain things that I did not like. But before I say anything of that, I do want to say this entire video does have spoilers because this is another weird thing that they decided to do, which was release everything in one sitting. Not do a episode by episode type thing. No, just here's everything. And the thing is, it was only 10 episodes. So, which I think were like 22, 25 minutes each. And that's not enough, which will clearly show in this show. Because a big criticism, at least from my point of view, I've had, was the pacing on each character's introduction to ending. Every time they introduce a new character, it would be interesting. I'm like, okay, what's going on? What are they doing? They seem really cool, which I will get into some spoilers, which, like, let's say the first villain that showed up, Penguin. They gender swapped him here, which should not matter, and I actually kind of like this version because there's been a lot of versions of Penguin, but the reason why I like this one is because of how ruthless she is. She literally ended one of her kids because they were a rat, apparently, and that was really hard because you don't expect the mom to be as ruthless, so I kind of understood the change for this point. So it was interesting, but then immediately, she did her bad guy stuff, and then, was gone. That's it. She only had one episode. And that's kind of what happened with each villain. Each villain would be introduced. Clayface, one of my favorite episodes that they introduced him with. They showed the kind of, leading to who he's going to be because they try to trick you into figuring out who it is because, the clay type thing and they didn't know how he got his abilities. So it's interesting. He doesn't have the big, clay monster type form, but I'm okay with that with this quote unquote realistic show, which they try to push. But this show is not realistic at all. First of all, it takes the 1940s. Where people of color were there with positions of power. I'm okay with that. One, because I'm also one of color, so that's a really nice to see. But also, it's an alternate 40s. I'm fine with that. And also, people are open in this show, like with Harley Quinn. Like her. She was awesome. I knew from the synopsis she was going to be different. That she was not going to be tied with Joker. And that was cool. That was a fun change. I loved her new costume. The yellow and black instead of the red and black. And with this version, pretty cool. Like in this version, it was interesting because she was still a psychiatrist, but she started getting a little more crazy because she kept getting really terrible people telling all their trash to her, and she started getting a little psychotic. And then she kind of became her own villain, saying she's a vigilante, kind of like Batman. Which is funny because Harley Quinzel becomes Bruce Wayne's therapist and tries to help him out and kind of gets into his mind. But, of course, Bruce Wayne's not going to let that happen. But then also, Harley Quinn tries to get into Batman's mind and what he's about, which is kind of, interesting, which I will get to him in a little bit. But she started, brainwashing all her terrible clients, turning them into D-lister type villains. Like the only one I really recognized that she turned one into was King Tut, which I did know from the 60s show. He could have been from something else beforehand, but that's where I knew him from. I watched the 60s show on DVD. So that's a cool way to introduce other villains, who would be more wacky. But here's the problem with someone like Harley Quinn. Because she was basically only in one episode where she's a bad guy, it was cool leading her to become the villain because we got to see a new version. But they didn't give us enough time. Like, yes, they did sprinkle Harley Quinzel in the beginning half of the show, but not Harley Quinn herself. You know how I said that all the things that caused her to go all cuckoo? They told us about it. They never really showed us. Never really felt like that stuff really drove her. Just kind of like went into it, if that makes sense. Like she was already insane. And we didn't get enough time with her. And they take her out of the show with a fake out death. But then they go into Batman, which I want to talk about. Supposedly for a Batman show, Batman isn't even really the main character in here. Even though it's literally called Batman Caped Crusader. Why are you naming it a Batman show if it's mostly another person show? And the reason why I keep it a little vague is because It's kind of everyone else's show besides Batman. Batman's kind of just there being a bodyguard. I know we know who Batman is. I know what he's about, but this is a different version of Batman. I'm always a component of like, we need to understand this character, whether we already know the character, because they could be different. Because in the synopsis of what I was learning about before the show was that this Batman was a little more unhinged, more than usual, and I'm okay with that. But they just kind of shove that into us and not really explain too much. Yes, it could be because of his parents' death, but they don't do much with it. But we should know more because this is a complete different version. And I get it. You want to introduce other characters. You can do that. Like the main character would most likely be Barbara Gordon in this show because she's a lawyer and she sees everything differently from her dad, and they mostly focus on her. Batman's on the sideline, and the main thing they even talk about is like his car, being like, oh my god, nice car. I'm not here for the Batmobile. I know you have your own show. I'm here for Batman. But seeing him as a side character and not the main character doing his things, getting into an insight on who this is, kind of ruins the whole point. If I wanted to watch a more Gotham-centric show, I'd watch Gotham, which I'd have. That's a really good show. But because it was marketed well, this reminds me of what's it called? Batman Fist of the Dragon, I think that was called. It was basically a love letter to those karate films from the 70s with Richard Dragon. That movie was promoted as something else besides Batman. I would have been fine. But that movie just felt like Richard Dragon plus Batman. That's what this show feels like to me. That it does not belong to him. That he is a side character doing side things. That he's on the side while the other people are doing the main thing. If that makes sense. They have Bruce Wayne. And this is actually a cool thing they do. They show that he is not good at portraying Bruce Wayne at all, which is actually kind of funny because there was this one scene where he tried to make a joke to someone, it didn't land, so he just told that exact same joke to someone else, and they did land to the right people that he's trying to impress. And I actually like that Batman would not know how to play the part of Bruce Wayne because this is supposed to be an earlier Batman, you can tell by the costume. But we don't get enough of Bruce Wayne trying to fit in as a human being as much. And this actually goes into Batman being a little more psychotic since, at least in this version, when Bruce's parents died, he kind of lost it. And he basically threatened Alfred that he was going to help him fight crime, which is a good thing. But we didn't get enough of that. Again, a lot of this stuff that I don't like is they didn't flesh out things. Like, there's this other villain that I really like, which also gets me into something also that I do not like. They had this character, Gentleman Ghost. I love the character in the comics. He's really fun and twisted. But I mainly know him from Batman Brave and the Bold. They used that and then made him 100 times more psychotic. Because in this one, he's just a whole-on racist. He just hates the lower class and steals from the poor to give them to himself when he was alive. And because he's a ghost, some of that, what he did in life kind of goes back in here. And it's really funny. His look is really cool. I kind of missed, the whole white look, but they kind of give that look to someone else. But the weird thing is, they would show some cool new stuff, showing him what he's going to be, and then immediately he's captured. That's how it felt. Like, there wasn't really much to it. And the other thing I want to talk about is the animation. Not the art style. I really like the art style, except for some reason everyone has eyeliner by the way they show it. The animation was kind of off because, animation's expensive. So not everything is going to be, bombastic, big. This is supposed to be Batman in his first few years, right? So I don't expect Batman being perfect. He's really good at fighting in certain cases. Sometimes he's dumb at other ones. It's really weird. It's not consistent on how good of a fighter he is. And what I mean by fighting is that every time they would be impact shots, or there should be, it felt flat. It didn't feel like there was much punches. And it only started doing that by the end of the show, where you started feeling more impact in things. Like in that episode where I was talking about with Gentleman Ghost, you started to feel more impact, and you started feeling the cool factor showing up, and then done. It's died off. With Catwoman, they show, the flirtation thing they had, how it was going, how Bruce Wayne can't handle it, but there was really nothing besides that. And what's funny is that they tried to say that things were going to be different in this one, but they're really not. It's kind of the same relationship they've had in every other media. Like, the only actual thing that they said they were going to do that's actually different from what I've seen was how they did Harvey Dent. They made him kind of different. In this one, he is a sleazeball from the beginning, and he is not a true friend to Bruce Wayne, supposedly. But Harvey Dent, it shows that he kind of, helps out the rich people. He doesn't help out any normal people, if that makes sense. So, I heard in the synopsis, he was going to switch when he becomes Two-Face, right? And in this one, they switch the face where he gets scarred. So instead of this face, it's this face now. So it's really interesting to look at. But, you know, when you see the scar on the other side, it's kind of off. But I get what they were doing. They're trying to make it different. The only problem with that difference, it never felt natural. Yes, he starts to feel like everyone's laughing at him afterwards and that, you know, everything is going wrong. But that only started happening after his disfigurement. Before that, there was no indication that he had a split personality that happened. He says, oh, the voices in my head are telling me different things. When we don't hear the voices, there's no separate voice when he's Two-Face. And it's just Harvey saying, oh, I'm so sorry, the voices are telling me something different. Odd. And then they try to do this redemption arc on Harvey being a good person, that he has morals, you know, before he gets scarred. Then after, he decides to, you know, go after all the actual bad guys instead. You know, a twist on the Two-Face format. But it didn't really feel impactful, if that makes sense. The reason I say that is because there was no indication that he had morals beforehand, like I said, that he was a sleazeball. And it only started showing that he had morals when we were getting closer to his turn to Two-Face, right? So, I don't know. And then they introduce 3 more obscure villains here that I absolutely had no idea who they were beforehand, like Onomatopoeia, the villain that, you know, only uses the onomatopoeias, the words of an action. And he's cool. The only reason I even know slightly about him is from the fact that I would look up who he is, that he is a Green Arrow villain. And that's it. That's all I know, even to this point. I just know that the gimmick and that he's a hitman. He was cool. Not enough time. And then there's Firebug. I had no idea who this character was. I legit thought this was Firefly. And they kind of make fun of that in this show. But he's basically just here to show the corruption of Gotham and what the lengths they will go to try to hunt Batman. By literally taking out a lunatic pyromaniac to roam around Gotham. And then they immediately kill him. Just to show how corrupt the police are too. There was this other girl, I completely forgot her name. Like, she's a little girl who trained kids to get stronger. I know she's someone in the comics. I didn't really care about after, to be honest. And when she was introduced, it was revealed that she was training basically the Robins, if that makes sense. They showed Dick Grayson, they showed Jason Todd, they showed Carrie Kelly, they showed Stephanie Brown, but no Tim? Did this show not like Tim? That's weird. And they weren't even like main characters. They would just kind of side, oh, look at the character they had. They had Carrie Kelly, not even like the main Robins. So, and they were just there to be drained. That's it. And I even heard people say that, oh my god, they're doing a scene from the animated Batman show, you know, with the baby doll episode, where he comforted her for what was going on, and Batman basically did that. That was nice. Batman saving her, no matter what. It didn't matter. She wasn't going to let someone die. That's Batman's whole thing. And I do like that in this show, Batman technically has a soft spot for kids. The only problem, again, is that they did not give us time to care. Because at least in the baby doll episode, they showed us her descent into madness and showed us what was going on with her. But in here, it just showed the girl already being kind of psychotic, and that's about it. I could be completely wrong. And you could say maybe I have rose-colored glasses because of my nostalgia for the original show. It's not going to be the best. It's not going to be up to the standards. Yeah, guess what? I never really watched the show like that. I didn't watch the entire thing. I watched it in pieces. I would see some episodes, but that's about it. So I don't have the nostalgia for the animated series. I know it was good. I know I've seen some episodes. I've seen the movie, but I don't have the nostalgia for it to be like, oh my god, it's not as good as the original animated series. I don't have that. I just see this as its own standalone Batman show, and it really missed the mark. I should have cared. I wanted to care so badly. Maybe if the show was given more time, maybe if the animation was better, I don't know. I wished I liked this show, but that doesn't discourage me on any new Batman things. If maybe they do a second season and it's done really well, I would really appreciate it. I'd be very excited. I just hope it's better, longer, and maybe given more time to flesh out the characters. I don't know. I wish the show did better, but that's everything I have to say. I kind of went to a ramble. I kept recording this video multiple times, didn't know how to talk about it because I had to let myself cool down, not get all heated, because I love Batman and I was so excited, and the fact that it disappointed me is really sad. But let me know what you thought of the show. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Are you in between on it? If you think my thoughts are trash or you do like my thoughts, tell me everything in the comment down below. If there's nothing else, this has been Dunamite. I hope everyone stays nerdy, and I hope to see everyone in the next video.